Really excited for this conversation following up on the heels of the Dexalot subnet launch last week. We're going to be diving into everything about how it works and how it benefits the DeFi ecosystem here. Also, feel free to click the link to share this out to your friends, and we'll get more people joining the spaces here in the next few minutes. But what we're going to do is we're going to start things off with some intros. So, yeah, why don't we kick it over to the Dexalot team? If you guys want to introduce yourselves and kind of the role that you play within the team, and then we'll have our team do quick intros, and then we'll get started. So, Nihat, you want to start first?
Yes, absolutely. Well, thanks a lot for inviting us. I'm one of the co-founders, Nihat Gürmen. I'm coming from an engineering background, and I do a lot of work regarding the contracts as well as infrastructure in the Dexalot team.
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining us. And then
Thank
Zengiz,
you.
you're up next. You want to give us a quick intro?
Okay. Yeah, I thought Nihat would speak a little longer as I was preparing what I was going to say. Okay.
We'll have plenty of opportunity.
Yeah, I scripted a few things anyway. But so I worked in Wall Street for 20 years for top tier investment banks, mostly for JP Morgan. I am the other co-founder with Nihat. Basically, I spent, like I said, most of my time in top tiers, and not to show my age, but I was actually working at 60 Wall Street building and lived September 11 events firsthand. Just a small anecdote in there. During my time in there, I held various positions. My team built a good portion of the tech side of the program trading, which is also referred as basket trading business, where we processed about $2 billion a day in spot equities. Later on, I jumped ship to statistical arbitrage trading desk as a developer, quant trader, because that's where my heart was. I ran my own high-frequency pairs trading strategy for a while. I also built a high-frequency FX trading application. I helped other quants incorporating equity futures, options trading into their models, and so forth. I made 2 attempts to go out on my own and have my own business. Once in 2010 and again in 2018. And one of my endeavors after 2018 seems to be working out pretty well so far. And I'm ecstatic that I got to do it with my old friend, my friend for 30 years, Nihat. That's it.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for the intro and a lot of great background there. So we're really excited to dive into what you and the team have built. Let's do some quick rounds with Avalabs people here. Luigi, you want to say hello?
Yeah, hi. Thanks for having me here. So I'm Luigi Tenorio De Meo, head of DeFi here at Avalanche. It's almost 2 years since I first joined. I think that's coming up in April. And basically, I'm sort of tasked with and responsible for, sort of building and help shepherding the DeFi ecosystem here on Avalanche. I also have a background in traditional finance. I worked at Citi for about 7 years on the trading side. So, very much looking forward to this discussion as it relates to finally seeing some decentralized cloud on chain.
Yeah, looking forward to that. Thanks, Luigi. And last, we have Gabriel. You want to say hello, give us a quick intro, and then you can kind of kick things off and go into the discussion we have here.
Absolutely. So, hey, everybody, this is Gabriel Cardona. I am a developer evangelist at Ava Labs. Coming up on 3 years that I've been on the team. So I believe I joined in March 2020, which, is like a lifetime in this industry. And we've seen so much innovation and exciting projects launch. We've been looking forward to Dexalot for a long time. I have been in the blockchain space a long time. I first found out about Bitcoin in 2011. I was there for the launch of Ethereum as well. And we've been saying it all along that we really do feel like Avalanche represents this coming of age moment for blockchain technology, where finally it's reaching this maturity level where the blockchain can fulfill its potential and change the world in a big way. And I think the project that we're seeing today is just a great example of that. So we're very much looking forward to deep diving on Dexalot and learning more about it. So I think we can just kick off the questions. So let's start at the very, very beginning. What exactly is Dexalot and what problems does it solve?
So I'll take that question, Gabriel. Thanks very much. In a very short sentence, Dexalot is a non-custodial, decentralized exchange with an on-chain central limit order book. So it's kind of summarizes in a very succinct way what Dexalot stands for. It brings the traditional look and feel of a central exchange without losing the inherent transparency and security of a blockchain technology. And that's where the differentiation of Dexalot lies compared to other central exchanges as well as other forms of DeFi applications. The unique feature of the new Dexalot application is the fact that it's a dual chain application. So it spans both mainnet, currently it's Avalanche C chain, as well as a Dexalot subnet chain at the same time. And this dual chain architecture is the building block for providing users with a seamless trading experience. That's what we are aiming for. In the current implementation, the users can access all the view functionality from both chains. They can see the trade pairs, order books, candle charts, as well as trade histories connected to any of the chains. But to do a state-changing operation, they have to connect to the chain they are going to operate on, and they can, for example, deposit from the mainnet to subnet while connected to mainnet, as well as they can trade and withdraw from subnet to mainnet while connected to subnet. So in general, I think we can call Dexalot as chain agnostic, because as long as it's EVM compliant chain, we should be able to deploy our mainnet contracts there and connect it to Dexalot subnet. So currently we are calling it dual chain, but in our vision in the future, we would like to transition that to a multi-chain application. And I would like to emphasize the multi-chain application aspect because it's different than existing multi-chain, meaning you have to independently work on different chains. We would like to have a chain that spans multiple chains at the same time and works as a unified application. So at that point, I'll stop and let Cengiz maybe add a few things on that one.
Yeah, I mean, that's like really the core of it. When you look at it, the Avalanche subnet is the unifying chain for us, which is our Dexalot subnet, is unifying all the other chains, hopefully all the main ones, and we can bring in the funds from the other chains into our subnet. That's our high-level goal in the future.
And we want to dig in a little bit and find out more about the dual chain architecture and the ideas behind that. But before we even get there, what was the motivation behind Dexalot and how does it differ from other traditional trading systems?
So there are a few motivations, right? I come from TradFi, and I really didn't know when I first came in. I really didn't know what AMM was, like automated market maker. And in my mind, well, all the market makers are automated. So what does that mean, right? So in my traditional sense, right? So when you look at the automated market makers, they serve a great purpose, obviously, but they lack the advanced features for advanced traders. At least the trading systems that I've built and seen, it was a simplified version of it. And again, I have to emphasize, it serves a great purpose for crypto system. But we said, why can't we have the real advanced features that everybody has been using in TradFi all this time in the blockchain environment? So that was the original idea generation moment, I guess. And the next one was obviously, can the blockchain support, any blockchain can support that? And Avalanche was obviously the one and only choice in that case, in our mind, for various reasons. In addition to that, the other flip side of it, the central exchanges, as you know, I mean, I don't have to repeat many things that we all overheard about the FTX collapse. So I'm not going to go into all these little details why central exchanges can be dangerous to all of us. So in a way, we said, hey, why can't we we keep our keys, we keep our money, right? And at the same time have the same central exchange look and feel and functionality in blockchain environment. So in a way, that was our motivation.
Just mention a few additional things that maybe a little bit looking into the future and what kind of vision we would like to have there. If you look at the current wallet applications, they are essentially built for single chain applications. I mean, the wallet itself can go multi-chain. You can connect to multiple chains, but in the end, the application they are catering are single chain applications. Our vision is a future where we have modern wallets that can send transactions to any defined chain without needing to switch. Once that happens, the need to switch on Dexalot will be just another evolutionary step, basically, for its way to becoming a central exchange replacement, which was our original goal with Cengiz. We wanted to create something that essentially gets rid of the urge to go to a central exchange that do everything in a decentralized manner.
Got it. Okay, great. And so, yeah, let's talk about the dual chain architecture. So that seems something that is unique to Dexalot. As far as I know, we don't know of anything else like that. So let's approach that from two angles. What does that sort of look like from a technical architecture perspective? So what are some of the implications? Why did you choose to go down that path, etc.? And then from a practical perspective, what does that mean for traders from a user experience perspective?
Okay, I guess I'll take that one. So, by the way, we were in the main chain for a year all this time as a single chain application. And I just want to point out that if anybody has outstanding orders on that old infrastructure, please cancel your orders because we're going to retire that soon. For the dual chain architecture, so there are a few things that we had to consider when we were architecting this, right? So first of all, when there is Avalanche is C chain is indispensable. We cannot get away from it, right? That has to stay there. But at the same time, we want to have the power of being in our own, let's call it sandbox in a way, that we can do any type of performance improvement, or we can set our gas prices as we see fit. So as a result, keeping in mind that C-chain had to be there and we had to be on the subnet, we had to come up with some type of logic and messaging that would enable this architecture. So what I mean by that, similar to a layer 2, when you take and you do all the processing that's heavy core processing, we said, okay, why don't we use our subnet as the layer 2 with the added benefit of having transparency and full auditability, right? And in order to do that, we had to, in a way, send some type of messaging. So we couldn't consider our subnet as a full blockchain where we would issue ERC, where you can mint ERC20 tokens. But in a way, we wanted to have our subnet, let's call the auditing piece, not the auditing, I'm sorry, the accounting piece of the actual trading. So what I mean by that, we said all the money stays in the C chain. We deposit into a main contract, a portfolio main contract in the mainnet. And then the message goes out to the subnet that says, hey, this user deposited this much value on this token. And that message is a generic message using layer 0. Originally, we thought about after every trade, we would send a message back to the mainnet and show the positions of the trader in the mainnet, reflect the positions. But that turned out to be very inefficient. We didn't even try it technically. It was going to be very inefficient and expensive. Instead, we decided to go to a separate route to show the balances of the traders using what we call ABS, asset balance snapshot. I will explain that later, ABS, but bottom line, we keep your money in the C chain. We send a generic deposit message in the subnet, and then you trade as much as you want. When you want to withdraw your money, we send another generic message from the subnet back to the mainnet, and the money that was locked is released to your wallet. At the core of it, that is how it works. This bridging technically is using a generic message. The other reason why we use generic messaging, because as you know, anybody who bridged any assets from one chain to another, they know the high fees that they have to pay. So once you use the generic message, it's just cents. You don't have to, and then you just pay cents, and then you don't have to offload that risk to a bridge. Our contracts hold the risk of the funds in. So we audited our contracts, and we are sure that what's going on inside of our contracts. So we don't have to depend on any other chain, any other bridge on this matter.
So just jumping in real quick. It just sounds like, if you can use an analogy, the subnet acts as like this back-end API that keeps track of balances, whereby let's call it quote unquote cold wallet is the C chain, that kind of stores the assets. I guess this, like for the user's perspective, this means that they get a lot lower fees moving in and out of trades. But they also, I guess, like get protection, if anything nefarious was to happen on the subnet, because the validators wouldn't be able to do anything to the coins. Is that like an accurate, representation?
That is an accurate representation.
That is true.
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I mean, that is true, Luigi. That's a very good summary of things, actually. In the end, I would like to give a little bit kind of color on what the user gets out of this one, right? So, and just this morning, I looked at different numbers. So in December 2022, on the single chain app version, when you were sending a maker buy order, the cheapest I was able to find is the gas price that had to be paid was 20 cents. And then for a cancel order, you would have to pay anywhere between 10 to 15 cents per cancellation. So these numbers look small, right? So it's in the cents, but still, if you look at it, how a central limit order book works, you need to have market making activity, adding orders and canceling orders constantly, right? So these 10, 15 cents adds up very quickly to make the central order book on a C chain type of environment where you have significant gas fees infeasible, basically. So going to the subnet dual chain architecture, a maker buy order can be done 1/10 of a cent, and a cancel order becomes 1/20th of a cent. So that's I don't know, a couple of orders of magnitude of drop from a C-chain gas perspective to subnet. So that's what the user will be getting. And it's not just the gas fee, but because of these low gas fees, there will be a better market making activity. So the spreads will be tighter. And essentially, it will be reflected on better prices for the users. And to give you kind of an idea, we are just maybe 5 days since launch, and we are already consistently hitting spreads that are less than 30 basis points for all major pairs. As volumes grow, probably we expect to see even tighter spreads and deeper liquidity. In short, what I was going to say to the audience, I think if you would like to make a trade with AVAX, USDC, USDT, WETH, or BTCB, we highly recommend that you check out the bids and offers on Dexalot and see yourself how good the prices compare to alternatives. And just entering orders to Dexalot order book, you will be get rewards basically, right? So there is really, you won't be losing anything. So
Yeah,
thanks.
that's probably a really good point to make sure we highlight, is to go through the incentive program that you guys have outlined and sort of, what you mean by that in depth, like putting a buy or sell order on the book means you start to accrue rewards. Like this sounds very similar to something like liquidity mining on an AMM. Could you explain the incentive program for people so they can?
So actually, Cengiz and Firestorm actually came up with the scheme in a cab ride. So I'll let Cengiz actually describe that because
Yeah, so,
I think.
Yeah, so that was like we were in Barcelona last year, and I was like, guys, we need to find a way to compete with AMMs because in a way that people who are providing liquidity to AMMs, they get some revenue back. I mean, let's not talk about the impermanent loss, but they get some revenue back just by leaving their tokens, contributing to the pool. So we should have something similar to this, but it is very difficult to do it on chain. And I was half drunk by then, and then Firestorm was like, "Hey, why don't we just do it off chain?" I mean, I know this is so stupid in a way. Why would you not think about doing it off chain to start with? But sometimes you get so stuck on doing something in a particular way that you can't take yourself out of it. So that was one of those moments. And so DIP program, obviously this basically what it does is like if you are a certain percentage point from the mid, you get rewards by just entering orders. That's the crux of it. That's if simply put, that's all you have to do is a buy or a sell order that is up to certain percentage point of the mid. And we actually show that in the front end, the DIP rewards brackets. And obviously the mid price changing. As a result, the brackets are changing constantly. And there's a small caveat in there that, just to protect the exchange itself, if nobody is within 1%, right now this is the setting, if nobody is within 1% of the mid price, nobody gets any reward. So in a way, you can't have all these orders sitting 20% away from the mid and everybody's collecting, because that's not the goal. The goal is to provide the liquidity and the depth and the best price possible to everyone. So that's what DIPs, in short, that's why we came up with DIP. In addition, inside the DIP, there is execution rewards. We have also some a lot balance rewards, which is just because you keep a lot in your portfolio in the subnet, you will collect some rewards just for that as well. And we come up with a combined score of all these three. And then we display that in our rewards leaderboard. And you can see your score on a daily basis, how much rewards you can get on a daily basis, and then we will distribute the rewards at the end of the month.
Just one additional point, Cengiz, if I may. So
please.
Just want to make sure that it's clear that those three factors that Cengiz mentioned, executed volume, order book contribution, and allot holdings, they are calculated individually, independently, right? So it's just additively added at the end, right? So it's just having one of them is more than enough for you to qualify for rewards. But the more of those components you have, the more rewards will be collecting. And if you look at the leaderboard, I don't want to go to the numbers, but I highly recommend people to visit our front end and check out the leaderboard. Even in the last 4 or 5 days, there's a pretty good reward amounts that are being logged there. So that's the best alpha I can give for today. Just check out the leaderboard and somehow get involved.
And we didn't even tell the amount of rewards that we're giving out. It's 200,000 a lot per month. So maybe that was the most important point that we forgot to mention. 200,000 a lot per month. So it is nothing to sneeze at, and we're going to be running it for 2 years. Jonathan, just correct me if I didn't. If I don't have the timelines right, but I think it's 2 years we're going to be running it. So it is going to be an ongoing activity. It is not just for now, but it's going to be staying. We're going to be playing around with the parameters, of course, but right now the parameters are quite relaxed. Almost up to 5 percentage point of the mid, you can get some rewards. So they're going to definitely be tightened in the future, because the goal is, again, bring the liquidity here in our exchange and the depth, the price and the depth. That's 2 goals that we're trying to achieve.
Excellent. And so, yeah, you can go right now and check out Dexalot.com. You can see at the top, there's a link for a leaderboard. There's also it tells that the subnet is live with dip rewards, and you can go learn more about that. So that's very exciting, because we were definitely interested on what your plans were to attract more users and boost liquidity, and it sounds like that's the plan. Another thing we were wondering about is trading pairs. So if I look right now, I can see what trading pairs are available. And we're wondering, what does the roadmap look like for trading pairs, and then other features which traders often ask for, such as leverage?
So let me start, Cengiz, on this one, and then you can add additional color as you see fit. So for the trading pairs, we don't have a preconceived idea which trade pairs need to be there or not. So we looked at the potential volumes and picked the initial starting set. But actually, we are looking for guidance from the community. We want, obviously, we will be having some thresholds and certain minimums to make sure we give a meaningful set to our users. But as long as they meet those certain minimums, we will definitely listen to our users and add the pairs they would like to see. In addition to that, we have also a product service called Dexalot Discovery, where we are offering a price discovery service for new projects. And for those projects, there is a kind of natural transition from discovery process into a live pair. Again, there is a minimum amount of time that is committed for that project, and as long as the project token meets certain limits, thresholds within that time frame, they will be listed on the Dexalot. So we don't want this listing mechanism to be a hindrance to grow the ecosystem and give users what they want. Actually, we would like to arrive at those pairs in a kind of community-driven fashion.
Okay, got it. Pardon me. And Jang, you had mentioned ABS, asset balance snapshots. You had said you were going to circle back to it. I just wanted to give you that opportunity if there was something else you wanted to speak about regarding that.
Sure. So ABS is like, in an ideal world, the way I originally envisioned the architecture, that ideally I would constantly send messages back to the mainnet to display the individual traders' holdings. But that's it's inefficient and it's expensive, and it creates unnecessary load on the systems, right? So as a result, we said, okay, let's come up with a methodology where we can show the balances of the traders in the subnet after they did a few trades, obviously. Otherwise, it stays the same. After they did a few trades, their balances change. Let's reflect that in the mainnet in an immutable way. So just in case something happens to our subnet, something like data centers, all of our data centers, we made sure that our, by the way, our nodes are running in different data centers in AWS, called regions. So just in case they all went down, our subnet is down for some reason, okay, some technical reason that we can recover. Asset balances snapshot will give the latest balances up to, I believe right now we're taking a snapshot every 10 minutes. You will have your balances immutably put in the C chain, and we can refund you from the C chain portfolio. Obviously, that will require some type of contract level upgrade, because we cannot do it right now. Currently, it will be against our rules. But in a disaster scenario, there will be a way to recover your funds up to 10 minutes, which is very powerful, extremely powerful, because you can rest even if you leave your funds in this subnet forever, you know that you're covered one way or another against against any technical reasons or any other issues that might come up with. Nihat, do you want to add like IPFS?
So I think instead of giving more details on the ABS, I was thinking that this is a very good segue to security mindset we have in general, right? So I think it is at the center of our product development efforts. It guides everything, every decision we make in the design as well as development. So what Cengiz described with ABS is part of a larger set of things we put in place to ensure a kind of a holistic security, right, for the users, for the exchange. So one of them, for example, is we look at certain invariants between subnet and the mainnet. One of them is the balances. So whatever is locked on the mainnet side has to be equal to whatever is in flight between subnet and mainnet, as well as whatever is currently on the subnet. So every 10 minutes, we compare the balances between mainnet and subnet totals and ensure the balances are matching each other. So this is not a preventative measure, but actually it's almost like an early warning system. If a malicious activity is happening, we would know it as soon as possible and take corrective actions. So there are many things like that built into entire infrastructure to ensure safety. So I just wanted to highlight that it's not just the use of strictly audited contracts. It's not just ABS, but it's a holistic look at security across the entire infrastructure.
And that's also contract level. So anybody is curious, subnet balances versus mainnet balances, you can look at the contract and see the matches yourself. The only thing that you may not have would be what Nihat referred as in-flight. So basically, for the 20-30 seconds that it takes to send one message from mainnet to subnet or subnet to mainnet, that fund is not available in one of the chains yet until it reaches its destination. So when you look at it, you might see some discrepancies because of that very reason. That we, like Nihat said, we have other measures as well. I mean, if you guys want, we can talk about the audited contracts. We can go into the layer 0 securities that we looked at. So we can progress from that if you like.
Sure. So yeah, that's perfect. That was actually my next question. Was Dexalot audited?
Yes, we spent quite a lot of time for the audit, to be honest. And as you
Not
know,
just time.
Yeah, and money exactly. And we didn't stop just there. I mean, the audit is public, obviously. We also opened up a bug bounty program in addition to the audit with the same company. So if any bugs are found, we have rewards up to $100,000. And any change that we make, obviously, it's fully audited. We will not release anything into the production on the mainnet or subnet, any unaudited contracts. And we had to make sure that it's actually Subnet Explorer. We can verify the contracts, and we spent some time trying to be able to do that as well. So our contracts are verified in both mainnet and subnet, and you can see it for yourselves. And Nihat, you want to add something?
Yeah, just wanted to. You mentioned about the bridge. I think the selection of the bridge layer 0 was affected from our security consciousness as well, because the bridge responsibility in layer 0 is divided up among independent components, which are Relayer, Oracle, and the layer 0 contracts themselves, right? So we wanted to make sure that there is actually the first question that Cengiz had asked in our meeting with layer 0 was about if the messages are vulnerable to change, if somebody can actually create or abuse the layer 0 messaging and change the messages, basically, right? So, and it turns out a lot of things in these independently managed contracts and entities or components need to happen for a message to be changed. It gave us enough sense of security to go with layer 0 as our default bridge, for example. And then on top of that, the endpoint configuration, for example, we have for the bridge is locked to Dexalot's private keys. So that means nobody can change the Oracle we are using or the Relayer we are using without our knowledge. Actually, the private key that can change that is ours. So those type of things was part of the decision process, how to select the bridge partner, and then build a default security into the infrastructure. And finally, which I had not thought of that until Firestorm, the one and only Firestorm actually mentioned this. So we are using a central limit order board. So that means inherently it's a capital efficient way of making the trades. And we don't need to have a large TVL to be able to give better prices to our users. So therefore, by default, we don't have a big target on our back for our hackers. So that's another aspect that I had not fully appreciated until I heard it from Firestorm, actually. So that's what I had in mind for security.
How can white hat hackers or developers learn more about your bug bounty program?
Oh, it's on the web, actually. If you go to hackenproof.com, or one second, let me just check the website. Hackenproof, and if you search it under Dexalot, it's going to be right there. Yeah, hackenproof.com, and searched for Dexalot. So currently, we have the bug bounty program only for smart contracts. That is, as Jenkins mentioned, $100,000 for critical bugs. But very soon, in a few weeks, we will also start a bug bounty program separately for web application and all the infrastructure components, basically, other than smart contracts. So that's another angle white hat hackers can look at Dexalot.
And if you want more things on the bridging, we actually implemented 2 bridges to go live together to show how generic we are handling this. As a segue, obviously, warp messaging is going to be implemented for sure, because that will provide additional speed and security. And from the layer 0 side, we're going to take over in the near future either the relayer or the oracle under our umbrella. That's going to tighten our security even more. It's kind of unnecessary, but we better safe than sorry type of thing. We like to control our own infrastructure. We like to build our own infrastructure from scratch. That's what we did. All of our applications are built in-house, and we have a lot of them. It is not like a typical Web3 app. It is more like, because I come from TradFi, I always emulated what I have seen and did in Wall Street and try to fit that into crypto rather than going the other way around. So we have an amazing backend services, actually. So I don't know if we'll have time to get into that part. And they are not, the backend services that we have, they are not in a way critical. When I say critical, you can directly trade with the contracts. You don't need any of the backend services to trade. But the look and feel that you get in the front end requires a sophisticated backend to service all that charts, the order books, everything that you see in the front end. Pretty much, it is serviced from the backend, but you still trade with the contracts directly.
One thing to highlight, probably in that respect, our single chain application, we always created this infrastructure, so everything is happening on chain first, and then a drop copy was sent to database to give the convenience of the look and feel to the user. So that aspect did not change at all. Still, everything is happening on chain first. Our kind of ground level truth is happening on chain, and then everything else is based on a drop copy of these things happening on the chain, basically. Right. So just wanted to highlight that, so we don't get the wrong idea that somehow we are kind of violating that principle. But we did it very carefully, and we did not. We adhered strictly to that goal.
Yeah.
And is there a Dexalot token? And if so, what are the tokenomics?
Yes, certainly. I mean, in the end, I guess you didn't have to have that, right? So in your own subnet, you can use something else. But we do have Dexalot token. It's called Alot. And if you go to docs.dexalot.com, we have a full-blown documentations website. And one of the articles is our light paper outlining the token economics, basically, right? So, and the to create that tokenomics, we really got our cues from how it was done for Avalanche, AVAX. So therefore, we have a very good chunk of that total fixed supply dedicated to operational rewards to essentially fund eventually, when we get to the point, permissionless validator nodes, just like at Avalanche network, as well as all these programs we are mentioning, basically the DIP program and everything else. So 50% of the Dexalot's fixed token supply is dedicated to these type of rewards and going back to the community.
Okay, excellent. So yeah, everybody check out docs.dexalot.com if you want to dig in more to the technical documentation or check out their light paper. So we have one more question from the panel, and then we're going to open it up to questions from the audience. So if you have questions, please be prepared to ask them. And the final question from us is, what are the plans for establishing a governance model?
So we have it in the roadmap. We didn't ditch that idea at all, actually. So we had it in the roadmap, but in the subnet, essentially we are learning how to operate subnet along with the community as well. So we wanted to reach a certain maturity level to understand better how all these pieces are working and how it needs to be managed. But we are trying to keep a pretty light touch on things, basically, right? So not a heavy-handed management on that. So we can actually transition to a governance model eventually when the time is right. And this time is a little bit flexible. We are expecting for community, our application, to mature up a little bit to get to that point, basically. I don't know, Cengiz, if you have any other thoughts on that one. We didn't have a chance to talk about this, actually.
No, but you put it very well, I think. We need the maturity first ourselves to understand, to come up with a working model, because some governance models don't work well, and we don't want it to slow us down, because we have a very tight delivery schedule and we want to keep delivering, and we don't want to be bogged down with interoperabilities that we are not sure about. But once we reach that understanding, I think governance is a must-have eventually.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, gentlemen. So that's it from the panel. Kyle, do you want to take it away?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, guys. It's really, really informative and great breakdown of everything that you have going on so far and coming up. And I think there's a lot of innovation and unique stuff being built there. So we're going to open it up to questions from the audience while we got 10 minutes left here. Hit that mic button on the bottom left and request to be a speaker. We'll bring you up here. Remember, you have to be on mobile. And of course, we want to definitely make the best of our time here with our special guests. So let's keep all of the questions related to Dexalot. So we got one question up here. Farhad, I'm asking, adding you up here now. So as soon as that's connected, you can go ahead. And then Jordan, I'm going to add you next to take on our second question. So Farhad, you're up first.
Hi, is this open for Jordan Fate?
Yeah, go for it, and then we'll go to the next one after.
My question is, so given that you have kind of a 10-minute snapshot that will effectively act as a layer 2, almost like a roll-up, and AVAX is such a fast network, doesn't 10 minutes or plus the 20-second kind of intermission of transfer between various nets create a pretty substantial lag in security for an exploit to occur and then be executed and even moved around many wallets, let's say 20 times on AVAX before you guys even notice something that's transferring between chains is occurring? And if that's the case, you say you can resolve a problem based on the ABS snapshot, but if you can't control kind of what's happening in terms of the withdrawals on the main chain because it's decentralized. How do you compensate the people who get hurt or whatever wallets are insufficiently capitalized after that withdrawal or exploitation event, given that you are either 20 seconds behind on transfers or 10 minutes behind on an ABS?
Okay, so ABS is primarily not for hacks, but it is for technical issues that we may experience, right? Technical issues, subnet is wiped out. That's the disaster scenario. Then you're covered up to 10 minutes. It is not a protection against exploits. Exploits, we have other measures for exploits. For example, for withdrawals, if somebody excessively doing small withdrawals at a time in a period of, let's say, 30 minutes, we have a threshold in there that it stops subsequent requests that are coming after that threshold is breached, and it will slow it down. It is fully on chain. We don't do anything with it. It's just that it's slowing it down so that we can assess the situation and potentially take measures. And that's one. And if there is an exploit, we said like ABS 10 minutes, and also we said that we are checking the balances between mainnet and subnet 10 minutes. These are all parameterized. We can change it to have like every 2 minutes, every 1 minute. It's up to us to monitor these systems. I am extremely confident with what we have that it's going to be. We audited it many times. We looked at it ourselves many times. We talked to Layer 0 many times to understand the weak points of the systems where we can be exploited. And to the level of one of the questions I asked to Layer 0, are your messages come in order? And they said that was one of my questions, and they said yes, they send the messages in order because some protocols that I use, it's called fix. There are certain security things that the protocol implements, and I wanted to replicate that in the bridge that we are using. So I don't know if that answered your question, but basically, I don't think the scenario that you're displaying or saying is not a possibility.
One more thing to mention, actually, I think you asked about the compensation part.
Yeah.
I think first of all, it's an excellent question. Thanks very much. As we grow, creating a recovery fund probably is in community's interest, right? So we had kind of bounced off a few ideas around that one in the past. I think in due time, when the exchange grows and reaches a certain maturity, we would like to create a recovery fund. So if something like that happens, a mishap, we can tap into that one and kind of make people whole again.
Okay, thank you. If it's possible to just say the technology is fascinating. As somebody who is raised on theory of TradFi, I just can't wait to see something like this implemented. If you guys can elaborate, or if there's any time, I'd love to hear once the inter subnet messaging AWM goes live, what is the plan for kind of transitioning from Layer 0 to that, or is it just too far out and the tech is has to be implemented first before we're really going to know how that transition goes?
I mean, it's going to be fairly simple in my mind. Obviously, we're going to have to see the details. It's usually details that takes a long time. But like we said, we are bridge agnostic. So we had implemented 2 bridges to go live with, but we decided to go live with 1. And we're using a generic message. And these are whatever I said is kind of, it's the definition of WM, right? Work messaging, they use a generic message, and they provide communication between, in the future, all EVMs. And all we have to do is, instead of, or in addition, actually, I don't want to say instead of, because if we go multi-chain, when we go multi-chain and deploy our mainnet contracts on a separate chain, we still going to need a bridge. So in that sense, layer 0 will stay regardless, but Avalanche to our subnet communication will be done primarily with the VM.
Thank you.
And implementation, I think it will be pretty quick.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Jordan, for the great question. And we got time here for one more. So Toji, you're up. We'll let you take us out with the last question.
No problem. So one of my questions is basically when a new protocol or a new technology comes out, I try to find like products or like protocols. So when I look at Dexalot, I see something like maybe a DYSP and osmosis. My 2 questions are: do you see that similarity? Are there similarities? And if there are similarities, how do you bridge that gap to get to be like an osmosis or a DXDY?
As far as I know, DXDY is that fully on chain, and there are actually, they are perpetuals. They are not actually doing spot trading. That's my understanding. And when we in our roadmap we have perpetuals, so we may be closer to DYDX in the future because we will have perpetuals as well. But from the look and feel, yes, we are similar on that sense. But yeah, I in the implementation wise, I think we are quite different. I don't know if it answered your questions. I mean, Nihat, do you want to add anything on that?
No, actually, I think I would have said the same thing pretty much, Cengiz. No, I don't have anything additional.
Yeah, because I mean, you said similar. We technology-wise, we didn't really look at any other applications. We built all of our applications ourselves in the team, in-house. I mean, we can probably had some type of people talking to us and giving us ideas and so forth based on what they have seen in other applications, but we didn't try to it wasn't like an AMM. You go to Uniswap, look at their contracts, and then say, hey, I'm going to do a version of that. No, it's completely different. We said, this is our business case. This is what we need to do, and let's write it. And we didn't go out and look for something similar to that. We just said, okay, this is what we're doing. So that's why, in that sense, it cannot be similar whatsoever. It's impossible, or it's pure luck because really we did it ourselves.
Awesome. Toji, thanks for the great question and thanks for the insight there from the Dexalot team. We are at the hour, so we're going to wrap things up here. I know people got things to jump to, but wanted to give a really big thank you to our special guest here from the Dexalot team, and just really awesome what's being built and what's launched last week. Really encourage everyone to dive in, do some research, check out their documents, go in and check out the live app. So I want to give you guys a chance for any final words before we wrap things up here.
So from my end, as usual, I would like to thank our community as well as Avalabs, specifically for inviting us to this Twitter Spaces, but also in general for their support. At different levels as we were developing Dexalot, we received tremendous support from Avalabs, and I think it's really differentiating Avalanche chain from others, that kind of support from Avalabs. So very grateful. Thank you, and see you guys around.
Thank you, Nihat.
Yeah, I would like to thank you guys as well to Avalabs, especially on the subnet side. You guys provided the know-how that we needed to configure our subnet and set it up and all these things, right? So it was instrumental. And what I would like to say to everyone else, I think we have an amazing product, one of a kind. Doesn't mean it can't be better, but what we are trying to provide is the best prices and the most of the depth and the price and security all in one. And so please try it out and give us feedback. To as much as the technology permits, we're going to try to implement them. So please give us feedback and let us know.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you.
Awesome, guys.
Yeah, appreciate the time. Really excited to see what you're building, and yeah, please try it out and provide feedback, and we can all make things grow within the ecosystem. Thanks, Gabriel, for walking us through the Q&A, and Luigi, thanks for joining us, and yeah, thanks to the community for coming in and supporting. Yeah, we have the pinned announcement tweet here at the top if anyone wants to go in and find the best place to dive into the info. So we will wrap things up there. Thank you, everybody, for coming through, and we will see you on the next Avalanche Twitter Spaces. Have a great
Thanks,
rest
guys.
of your day.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.